Hello everyone. Today I'll explain how to set up a virtual lab inside UTM. Then I'll show you how to use Nessus Essentials to perform vulnerability scanning of another operating system. I prefer to use UTM over VirtualBox since it's more user-friendly. It's easier to set up. So at this stage, I assume you installed Windows operating system, any Linux distribution such as Fedora, and of course we need Kali Linux operating system. So now let's start with the first step. We need to set up the virtual network environment within the UTM. First, if you right-click any virtual machine, select Edit, go to Network, make sure the network mode is Shared Network. For the Kali, for Fedora, shared network, and for Windows, shared network. Why? This mode inside UTM create a virtual network that is isolated from your host machine. Now, my host machine is Mac machine. This allow the different virtual machines to communicate with each others. So Kali can communicate with Fedora, with Windows, similar like they are in the same physical network. This step is extremely important for Nessus. So Nessus later can scan the other virtual machines. Now, once we start each virtual machine, it will be assigned an IP address. Hopefully, all IP addresses will be in the same subnet. So now I'm going to start the 3 virtual machines. Let's start with the first one, Kali. Okay, so now I logged in. I am inside Kali. Let's now go to Fedora. Let's start Fedora. And now let's start Windows. So now I started the 3 virtual machines, Windows, Fedora, and Kali. Now, the first step, which is extremely important, I need to check the IP address for each virtual machine. So let's switch to the root. So inside Kali, I can execute the command IP address show Ethernet 0, or you can use the old command ifconfig Ethernet 0. This is the old command. I prefer to use this command. The IP address inside Linux is called inet. So this is my IP address, 192.168.64.11. Let's record this, 192.168.64.11. Check one more time, 192.168.64.11. Yes, okay. Now let's check the IP address for Fedora. Start the terminal. Let's switch to the root. Okay. Let's use the command inside Fedora, IP address show. Now, it's not called Ethernet 0 like Kali. It's called ENP0S1. EN for the Ethernet and P0S1. This depends on the physical location on the motherboard, which slot. So if you have like second network card, it will be ENP1S2 mostly. Okay, look at inet. This is the IP address for Fedora. By the way, you can use the grep command, like if you type grep inet, it make it more simple for us. Like from the result, search only for the word inet. So this is the IP address for Fedora, 192.168.100. One more time. Okay. Now let's check the IP address for Windows. Okay. Click now the start menu. Let's go to the settings. Let's go to network and internet. Let's select Ethernet. And here you can look for IP version 4, this one, IP version 4 address, 192.168.64.6. Now the subnet mask is 24. 24-bit mean you take 3 digits. So this indicate 1, 2, 3. This will be the network address. So I can see that Kali and Windows are located in the same network. However, if you look at Fedora, it's located in a different network. So if you try to ping Fedora from Kali, it doesn't work. Let's show you this. So now inside Kali, if we try to ping Fedora with address 192.168, let me check again, 100. As you see, this is the IP address for Fedora. And if you try to ping Fedora from Kali, doesn't work. So let's press Control and C to exit. Let's now try to ping Windows 192.168.64.6. Okay, it's not working. I need to check the firewall for the Windows. Let's now exit. But now let's fix the issue for Fedora. So let's go to Fedora. Let me clear my screen. Now, as you know, when you start the virtual machine, the DHCP assign each virtual machine a different IP address. So now we need to change the IP address for Fedora. Let's follow these steps. IP address delete 192.168. Again for Fedora 100 with subnet mask 24 from the device ENP0S1. Okay, it's deleted. Then let's use the command IP address add 192.168. Now let's use the same network address 64. Let's keep it 100. Then let's use the command IP link set device ENP0S1 up. Sorry, IP link. I did a typo. Then let's make sure the default gateway for Fedora, which is the router, is also in the same network. So IP root at default, let's say via 192.168.64.1. This will be now the default gateway for Fedora. So the most important that the first three digits are in the same network with Windows and Kali. In some cases, if you're still unable to ping Fedora from Kali, you need to stop the firewall inside Fedora. So let's now go and check. Okay, now we go back to Kali. Let's now try to ping the new IP address for Fedora, which is 64.100. As you see, we are able to ping Fedora from Kali. This is extremely important to perform Nessus vulnerability scanning list. Let me exit by typing Control and C. Now, just for your information, if after you did these steps, you are unable to ping Fedora from Kali, then I'll show you the command systemctl stop firewall D. Now, if we assume the firewall is running and blocking any ping request, this is the command you can use to stop the firewall inside Fedora. But for me, no need. I am able to ping. Okay, now the next step, let's use the Nmap. Let's scan now the entire network. Let's use the options 192.168.64. Now I need to scan the entire network. As you know, the network has the address 192.168.64.0. This is the network address. And now, since the subnet mask is 24, this means Nmap is going to scan all IP addresses starting from 0, like 192.168.64.0, all the way until 192.168.64.255. So in total, 256 IP addresses will be scanned. Now you can Google for Nmap cheat sheet. This one has all the switches you need to master Nmap. For example, today I'm using this switch, which means it performs TCP synchronous port scan. So let's go ahead. Let's do the scan. Okay. Again, let's just remember that Kali has the IP address end with 11, Fedora with 100, Windows with 6. So first, as you see here, Nmap was able to detect this IP address 192.168.64.100. This is for Fedora. And initially, as you see, is there any open ports? No. So Fedora, with minimum security requirements, without any additional installation for security software, doesn't show any open ports. All, as you see here, 846 closed TCP ports. Usually, if you scan any vulnerable machine, it shows here some open TCP ports. Now, similar, Nmap was able to see Windows. This is the IP address for Windows. Again, Windows is secure. It has like 1000 filtered TCP ports, no response. This is great. So now, using Nmap, I scanned the entire network, and here I can find like 2 IP addresses I am interested in performing Nessus Essentials vulnerability scanning. Okay, so now we are ready. Let's open Firefox. Again, I am inside Kali. And now, after you install Nessus Essentials, how you can open it? Just open Firefox, open localhost at HTTPS, and you can access it at the port 8834. So again, here I am assuming you already installed Nessus D and you enabled plugins. I will show you another video how to do it. But for now, why I am able to open, since I need to start the Nessus service. So let's switch back to the root. and let's start Nessus. So we can use this command, systemctl start. If you remember, the old command was service start. Now we use this new command that work across all Linux distributions, systemctl start Nessus D service. Now let's go back to Fedora. Okay. Now, when you open this one, it gives me potential security risk. You can click advanced, then accept the rest. Now you need to log in. Okay, let me just type my login information. Okay, okay, one more time. Okay, so now these are two scans I performed before. So again, after you install Nessus, initially the new scan is inactive. You need to do additional step of installing plugins. I'll show you another video how to do this. So now let's click new scan. As you see, there are different types of scans you can perform. I am using the free version from Nessus Essentials. If you go with the professional version, you can do more scans. Let's just do basic network scan. Let's call it, for example, Fedora vulnerability scan. You can give it a description. You can decide in which folder. Now you need to decide what is the IP address. So the IP address of Fedora 192.168.1.100. Later, I can do the scan with Windows by entering the IP address of Windows machine. Now, before you click save, there are other options you can check. Like, for example, if you go to advanced, the scan type, let's just keep it default. If you go to assessment, now, what assessment you want to perform? Scan for all web vulnerabilities, quick. This take about 10 minutes. Or you can go for complex scan. So let's perform the first one, the quick, but you can perform any other scan, especially this one. It take longer time. Also, if you want, you can go to the report and decide the output for your report, the format. So let's click save now. Even you can schedule your exam to start at a time. So this is the vulnerability scan I created. Let's launch. Okay, so now we started the vulnerability scan. Okay, I did a mistake. We changed the IP address and I forget to change here. So let's repeat the scan. This is the IP address now for Fedora. Save. Let's launch. Similar, while it's now scanning, let's create a new scan. Also, basic network scan. Let's say for Windows 11 vulnerability scan. What's the IP address for Windows? 192.168.64.6. So you can schedule your exam to start at a time. You can have some options, but let's just go for quick options. Save, launch, and back to my scans. So I have two scans now scheduled. Let's wait until the results come up. Okay, as you see here, the Fedora vulnerability scan is done. Windows scan is still in progress. Let's check the first one. If you check here, 18 weaknesses are discovered in Fedora. Let's open this one, which shows 4. This vulnerability is rated medium, the severity scale, and per the CVSS database, the rating is 6.5 out of 10. What is this vulnerability? Here you can find a description. SSL certificate can't be trusted, and here you can go and read the description. Even you can check for a solution, for resources. So you can check others also, even if they have low rating, but it's worth to check every. Like here, the SSL cipher suits supported. So you can check all the vulnerabilities. And as we said before, you need, according to your budget, to your resources, your time, you prioritize the discover vulnerabilities, then you start addressing the most severe vulnerabilities first. For example, check this one, ICMP timestamp request remote data disclosure. So let's go to my scans. Windows is still in scan. Let's wait for the Windows scan. Okay, as we see here, the vulnerability scanning for Windows is over. Let's check the result. It detected only 3 vulnerabilities, much less than Fedora. And if you check, none of them like has high or medium severity rating, no score from CVSS. If you check the first one, this is a vulnerability that you can discover the MAC address for Windows machine. You can check the others. So now the main point that you can use Nessus to scan a device, it generates a report. Then now you need to prioritize your efforts to address the most severe vulnerabilities first. That's it.